Places, please. Quiet down. And here we go. And roll camera.
I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
And welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Anatomy of a Movie.
We're back by popular demand.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the song there.
Come on, everybody, strike up the band.
There we go.
Sequel. That's what we do in Hollywood.
Very fun.
For those of you who are just listening, I'll just try to describe the two ladies dancing.
I was playing my fake banjo.
If you haven't guessed by now, we are dissecting Muppets Most Wanted. I'm John Comerford. I'm joined in the studio by Sara Stretton.
Hello, everybody.
Marisa Serafini.
Hello.
And in the booth is Phil Svitek, who will chiming in from time to time.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what the ironic part is?
What is that?
Right off the bat, in the song, hopefully, maybe... Nah, it's not right on cue.
Okay.
But they say the sequel's not as good as the first, and unfortunately that may have been the case for me, but we will talk about that. But that doesn't mean it wasn't enjoyable.
No,
I really did enjoy it.
Since you brought it up, let's dive in. Was this your most wanted, or was it your least liked, or anywhere in between?
Oh, I think it definitely was in between. For me, I have a soft spot in my heart, not for the Muppets 2011, which is what everyone's referring to as the original, but for me, I really like the movies of like A Muppet's Christmas Carol and A Muppet's Treasure Island, and like those are the ones that I always think about because they're very much more connected to my childhood, and like I will always have like Bermuda, Bahamas, like always associated with Muppets. For me, I think that they did a really good job. As I was telling you guys earlier, I need to go back and see this with like an 8-year-old, just because I'm very curious to see their reactions as opposed to mine, because I thought that a lot of the, I don't know, I guess more adult humor was very on par. It was there. It was throughout the movie. It was hitting on different notes, different levels, like in physical comedy as well as in lines. So I thought that was really fun, and I definitely had a few like laugh out loud moments.
I agree. I mean, this was a really fun sequel, I guess you can say. As a collective whole, that I like the audience and the cast members that were involved with it, like Ricky, Ty Burrell, Tina Fey. Like, I thought their characters were really fun and strong to bring the adult audience in. And then, of course, you had the lovable Muppets that we all grew up with and love and stuff. So I think there was a nice balance between the kid demographic and the adults within this movie. And then, their self-awarenesses throughout and their self-digs at each other and just like references back to the original movies that there was lines like, we did a whole movie about him coming back. And so they're making fun of themselves in that way, which the older audience would enjoy as well throughout. So I think overall it was a really fun movie to watch.
I enjoyed it too. I really liked it. And I think about the Muppets movies, and I go back to the originals as well, meaning the original Muppet movie way back when. But I always look at this and I go, they have an insurmountable task, because they have to hit all kind of demographics for the little kids who love Muppets, and for everybody who's grown up with them now who wants to see them again. It's like, I don't know how they do it, but they manage to, because everything you want in a Muppet movie is in the movie. There are great numbers. There are great cameos. You have all the characters from the Muppets that you love, and they all have their moments, and they managed to do it. They managed to put it together. I don't know how they do it.
For me, what was fun, we're going to be talking about for the older audience, and perhaps let's say if you're 16 or upward, you'll probably enjoy this discussion. If you're a little bit younger, perhaps not so much. I don't know. But the first Muppet movie was back in '79. And as they joked about it in the song that we just listened to as well, it's technically not the sequel. There's been some before, so 8 total Muppet movies. You got the Muppets, the Muppet movie, which came out, or the Muppets, which came out in 2011. The Muppet movie came out in '79. This isn't chronological because I'm just reading according to a weird list. Muppet Treasure Island, The Great Muppet Caper, The Muppet Christmas Carol, The Muppets Take Manhattan, Muppets Most Wanted, and Muppets from Space.
I mean, they really do span the board. To me, it was funny that I think that in this movie, you know, they're encapsulating this audience who I think was very connected to the 2011 film.
Yeah, they were really capitalizing.
And like that's where they were really drawing from. And I don't know exactly if I like that or not, just because to me that wasn't the foundation of the Muppets in my life.
Right.
And on top of that, like this was very much another caper film.
Yeah.
Which they have done before. And like in the past, like a lot of it's been, you know, expansive, like in space, and they like to pull in these very different genres. So to me, it was interesting that they chose to revisit the genre again. I think they did it well. I think that they like were influenced obviously by the music, the style. To me, it worked. It felt very much the caper formula. But I was a little surprised. I was surprised that
they went to the caper.
I don't know what they would have gone for. Like Muppets horror might not work so well.
And I was like, what you know? And to speak to what you were talking about, how they kind of and what you mentioned, Marisa, as well, where they were talking about how we just did a whole movie about him joining, and now he's gonna. So I mean that was very tenuous, that connection. But I think you're right. I think they were going, okay, how do we capitalize upon the success of the last one? And keep that audience having fun, and still bringing other new audience to it, and keep our old audience as well.
Yeah,
so it's like I don't know how they try to do that. And so that tenuousness about okay, let's wink and nod about the fact that okay, we just did one, but this isn't really a sequel, but it is because we have to. It was, but again, because it's the Muppets, they can get away with all kinds of crap.
That's true.
Oh, true. And I think having the whole movie set in a different country as well kind of brings the European demographic into it as well, which I think that was pretty smart on their part.
Yeah, and I think it is also fun, like, revisiting, because, like, they had centuries. And one thing that the Muppet Corporation company, although I know that they've exchanged hands throughout the years, has done is they can push storylines for forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically the one that I think comes to most people's minds, and mine included, is the story of Kermit and Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Like, and the debates about if they're married or not. And it literally has been going on for, what, half a century? That they've had this question that they've not answered. And I'm just like, and you can, like, because Muppets have had appearances on talk shows, TV shows, the Today Show, Good Morning America, everything. And it always comes up. And the actors and the characters, they always just keep avoiding the conversation, or like going back a little bit on their word or whatnot.
Well, have they ever been married? No.
No.
Oh, that's debatable.
Oh, is it
First
really?
of all,
Okay.
they played a married couple in a Muppets Christmas Carol. That did happen. They were married in that.
But as
That was
characters, I can't remember
true.
as characters.
But like, there's been debates like over the years. I know that.
Well, yeah, but if you take this
No,
one,
but Miss Piggy at one point had a marriage license.
but if Miss Piggy could have doctored that up herself.
I mean, I'm sure. And like Kermit's like said that they're together and then not together. Like they every 5 years or so it gets brought up, and then they switch it around.
Common law.
I think that's a funny run-on joke, because even in this movie they bring that up again.
Yeah.
But they kind of give the audience the glimpse of what their lives could be if they were together and they were married. They had kids.
And what I love
we
is
kind of got
children.
those answers.
It's the Muppets that it creates such debate. I'm going. It doesn't matter. Why are you so invested? Just watch it and enjoy. Why are you trying to figure out the actual domestic alliance between two Muppets?
Because people want to know. There's a curiosity.
Ridiculous.
Well,
about
are there any
people's
other
personal
Muppets
lives.
that are
God.
actually married?
Well, I want before this partly may explain some of it, perhaps not. But before we fully dive into the story, Sarah mentioned that kind of it's been taken over several times. So the first Muppet movie in '79 was made by Associated Film District. Then we went to Universal. Then we went to TriStar. Then Buena Vista. Then Buena Vista again. Then to Sony. Now we're back with Buena Vista. So the fact that it's been between different studios, each of them may have had a different goal.
Yeah.
So you can find, I'm sure, some explanation as to the progression of Piggy and Kermit and why that is.
It's like I'm going. Why? Who cares? Because why let the facts get in the way of a good story? I mean, they're Muppets. I mean, I know people get invested in them, but I mean, isn't it okay if they play fast and loose with the truth?
But the Muppet Corporation as a company, the thing that like makes it thrive is that they've created this world of Muppets, marionette puppets or whatnot, and it's not separate. It's inclusive in human reality. So like in like the 2011, you've got brothers that are like not interspecies, but like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
crossbred.
So I think that it's beneficial to have people invested in the Muppets as real people and as their relationships, because it's adding to their world.
No, I think that part's funny. I laugh at, and probably maybe I shouldn't, but I laugh at people who get so invested that they're having debates. I mean, literal, physical.
Well,
craziness.
while we're on, if we're going to talk about Piggy and Kermit, let's take a step back. And we'll dive into the movie at hand. But for me, one of the biggest, most frustrating things as a child, I just hated Piggy, and for the life of me, I don't understand why she's
Phil
included
is
as
not
many
a Piggy
times.
fan.
I'm not, because to me, here's this great, nice guy, and here's this sadistic wife, not wife, whatever you want to call her. And she's just I don't see him ever being happy with her at all. And to me, that's a sad message to tell kids. And I was like, why would I want something like that?
Well, yeah, that's true. It's maybe not the best message for kids, but I think the adults love it because they get it. I mean, that's what's fun about it. It's like these two creatures should never be together, and then it's kind of like Ralph Cramden going way back to the Honeymooners. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the other funny part is, like, I mean, Kermit, although somewhere underneath it all we get the understanding that he does have a love of Piggy, it's very much focused on the fact that he does not want to marry her because he thinks she's a little bit cuckoo.
And who can't relate?
But I am one of those. Piggy's not my favorite Muppet by any means. But I think that does add something. You kind of need that. You can't love everyone.
Yeah,
you need that.
And it adds some drama in it. And I get if you don't like Piggy, there's probably too much of her in the movie. And if you do like it, there's probably not enough. But I don't really have one way or another.
You want the 5 Celine Dion songs?
No.
I mean, but who doesn't?
No. But the one thing that they always use her to great effect in terms of helping Kermit along his arc and all that other stuff. So they use it to great effect is my point. So
she's a very good foil.
Foil.
That's
to
what I mean.
Moving the plot along.
But I can understand Phil's point completely. She's a horrible role model. But some people are going to argue, well, no, she's strong, she's independent, she knows what she wants. But of course, what she wants is a guy. Anyway, it's just all right, whatever. So
debatable.
Exactly.
Children's values.
So all right, but let's get into this story more about this particular one, because I've alluded to the idea that it's not really a sequel, because they're not. I mean, they're starting where the other one left off, and that's pretty much it. Because it's really about the caper. And you mentioned that you enjoyed this. Did you like this story about the caper and that part of it?
I mean, I liked it. It was fun. I think we've heard the story of your evil twin out there in the world so many times that I was like, okay, they can have fun with this, especially being Muppets. We haven't seen another version of Kermit.
Yeah, that's what I thought was very interesting.
I thought they really played that to their advantage.
Some people didn't like it because they didn't want to see Kermit in a bad light, and I'm going, it's not Kermit. But again, they have trouble realizing that it's not Kermit.
The bowl gets covered. In
it's Constantine.
Eyes.
He goes, yeah, but they're so used to Kermit, the iconic figure, doing mean things. They just had a hard time with, and I go, anyway,
a different Kermit.
It's not Kermit.
That didn't cross my mind at all. Like, I thought that it was fun that they gave the different version. I also thought that, as Marisa mentioned, the whole world venue lent itself very well to the comedy in this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, just the different cities, in particular, like the accent work, dialect work. Yeah. I thought that added so much humor for me, and I loved it. So, how the caper took them there and took them through both, like, kind of like historical
this tour,
stuff and the tour of Europe and all these different places. I thought it was very well put together. There obviously were certain things that were so obvious that it made me question. So, for instance, when Ricky Gervais shows up and his name's Bad Guy, and you're like, see, Bad Guy, and then I'm like double thinking myself, being like, but wait. Maybe it's too obvious. Maybe it's not. Maybe he really is the good guy. I'm like, no, it's the Muppets. What am I thinking?
Right.
But so I liked that. I thought that, and having the two bad guys and their relationship as well, and not just so focused on one, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and I like the American kind of humor towards the Europeans, like digging
and vice versa.
And back and forth. But it shows that the two countries, they have problems with each other, but they can still work together and have fun during it. And just like the American point of view, be like your cars and your buildings and stuff like that. I thought that was fun to watch,
Even the
especially
cup
for
of
the
coffee.
adults. Yeah,
Huge one.
just like the American compared to the European things back and forth was fun.
Well, I'm trying to remember all of the movies, Muppet movies. I'm trying to remember when they had a Muppet as a bad guy. Or one of our guys, and obviously this wasn't our he's Kermit, but not Kermit, because obviously he's Constantine.
You have kind of like always the downers of the Muppets, like in the two older gentlemen.
This for me was the first time they actually took a character, and obviously he's not Kermit, but it's like that's a great little twist there, because we've never really seen a Kermit. I mean, a Muppet as the bad. He's usually a human that's the bad guy.
Typically,
is my point.
Right? Yes.
And this was great. I liked that, and I love seeing Constantine in the shadows, kick ass. It reminded me of Yoda, with the little tiny Yoda, the green, spinning around.
How
like a
did
Jedi.
you feel about were you a fan of the the special effects movements of Constantine?
Well, the first time when he's in the gulag and he's all in shadows beating the crap out of him, that was hysterical. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved how he had the robe to make him look like he is a dark bad character and
ninja
stuff.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I definitely liked the ninja aspect. I was a little taken back at first with all of his fighting style, because I very much like just more of the, I guess, natural puppet aspect.
Oh, I see.
Than,
You didn't go for that part.
Special effects.
I thought it was much more successful in shadow, because that part I thought they just keep it in shadow every once in a while when you see him. I just liked him jumping and doing all the parkour stuff.
Yeah. But I think that was well done to show the audience that this is really a different character.
Yeah.
Even though he looks like Kermit, he's a completely different person.
Movements,
that was a great setup.
And even his mentality that Constantine always thought of himself higher than Lemur. Always number one, like spacebar, spacebar, spacebar.
That was a great line. Spacebar, spacebar, spacebar. Definitely a good moment. Also, just a side note, to make this, typically we use green screen.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that Kermit and Constantine are both green, they had to switch to blue screen for this movie just to make it easier. So that's just like a little side note, things they have to adjust to deal with a very green frog.
Not easy being green.
No.
You know what I found?
So many adjustments.
I found this little tidbit interesting. We haven't gotten it yet, but James Bobin, who was the director, but he was also the one of the co-writers. Yeah. We talked. I think you guys mentioned that he did Flight of Conchords as a writer, but then earlier on he was a writer on the Ali G show of all shows.
I know.
And I found that interesting, in terms of the comedy. And so he's one of two directors to direct multiple Muppet movies. He directed the first one,
the last one.
There you go,
and
the last one. And Brian Henson was the other director to have done so.
That's good to note.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the Caper movie. It was fun. I think it was I allowed that it went bigger in scope. We got to see different places and all that kind of stuff. So you get a lot of production value just for fun. It's like, oh look, we're in Dublin now. All that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
I want to get into a little bit about the three human leads of this film. I think that Muppet characters have their arcs, but they're pretty consistent, and the reason the movies work so well is because people have formed attachments to each of them.
They have the same arc every movie, but so let's move on. The Muppets.
They're easy to cling to.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they always have to add the hosts. And the hosts of this movie were very much Ricky Gervais, Ty Burrell, and Tina Fey. And I thought it was interesting because each of them comes from comedic backgrounds, but in my opinion, very different, sectors. Like Tina Fey's that she's awkward, smart, SNL sketch comedy. Ricky Gervais often plays the straight-faced, very intellectual based, and then you've got Ty Burrell, who's just
he's a clown.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's a clown.
And so you get the three of them doing their own part, and I just wanted to get your reactions on how you thought they did in this world and in the Muppet comedies.
I thoroughly enjoyed him. First of all, I thought it was great that Ricky said yes. It's like, oh, you're gonna do it. Is he really gonna do a song and dance number? Really?
Right.
And I haven't seen him do that. I'm not saying he doesn't do it well. If he hasn't in his past, I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know him of that. So anyway, I thought it was great to see him to do it, and that he took the risk to.
Did any of them steal the show for you?
Oh, they all did in moments. I mean, Tina Fey's first number. I mean, I thought that was
I agree.
great.
Yeah, I felt like Tina Fey's character stole it most for me because she had more numbers and more performances, and I watched all the 30 Rock, so I love Tina Fey, and she's just a great actor, great writer, and so there were some moments where I felt that they probably kept that line in because that was complete improv on her part, so I kind of felt that her comedy throughout. And Ty Burrell from Modern Family, he's really funny in that way, so I felt like they brought their own comedic sense of humor to the movie that allow the audience, the adult audience, to enjoy. And they, yes, like you said, they all had their standalone moments, but I enjoyed Tina Fey the most out of all of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't say that. I mean, I enjoyed them all, but there wasn't one that stood out for me. I mean, I really liked Tina. I liked all their numbers. I mean, even Ty Burrell and his number with, with the Eagle, Sam. So when their first number in there, I mean, that was such a ridiculous number. So
yeah, I
that was fun number.
Yeah.
Also.
I think
ridiculous in a fun way as well.
Yeah.
They all lent their comedy very well, and I think that Ty and Tina seemed very, very invested. And then for me, Ricky Gervais, he has such an interesting comedy because, like, I had not seen him sing and dance before either. I think that he actually had been brought in on a deleted scene from the 2011 Muppets movie.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's how he got brought into this one. But for me, at first, I was watching it and I was just like, oh my gosh, never go on Broadway. Never go on Broadway. Because, like, you know, in musical theater, you have to be very animated. And it's you know, it's about making the most ridiculous things the most important things in the world. Like, you love this flower so much, you would do any, like, it's crazy. And at first I was just like, he's almost too smart for Broadway or too smart for, like, the musical theater actors. But then it turned in, as the song progressed, to, like, this very endearing quality to his performance, where he would, like, throw in the smile and, like, the 1.2, and I was like, this is so sweet. And, like, he's trying. And it's not your typical, like, over-the-top theatrics.
Absolutely. And I felt the same thing when he started out. I'm going, I don't know if he's going to pull this off.
I was very scared it was going to go down the road of, like, if anyone's seen the musical Mom and Mia.
Yeah.
Oh.
There was a couple actors in there where you're just like,
but it didn't. Yeah, exactly. And I was worried. I have to say, I was like, oh my. But then I felt the same way. By the end of the song, I was going, good. I was rooting for him, and I was so happy that he did it. He took the risk, and it worked.
Yeah, it's because of an endearing nature.
There
or
was
like a little bit of a kind.
He brought something that I hadn't seen from him, and I go, well, good for him.
I agree, and especially with Ricky Gervais, I've seen him more when he's had hosted, like, big award shows and stuff like that. Like, I think we as an audience have seen him on the more offensive side. For the adults,
very biting.
Yeah, very. And I was worried that he might have brought that into this movie, but I'm like, you got to remember this is a kids movie. You got to keep it clean. So I was kind of worried about his character if he was going to go in that borderline.
But he was always
way.
That's why, to me, you know, when they're like Mr. Bad Guy,
right.
I knew from the get-go, okay, they're playing to him, you know, and you want to talk about the intelligence factor of it. It's almost like Joe Pantoliano playing a good guy ultimately in Memento. You know, they're playing on the stereotype, and here they're playing on the stereotype of, like, for the most part, Ricky Gervais is a despicable character in movies, and you know, think of Stardust. Remember?
I mean,
what was the other movie that he was in? Year One, right? He's kind of a despicable guy in that.
Yeah.
I think that in general, people would definitely agree with that assessment. I guess I was thrown off most and more convinced that maybe he was going to be a good guy, because my most recent interaction with Ricky Gervais is with his series that was on Netflix called Derek,
right?
Which is spectacular for those of you who haven't watched it. But in it, he's so good-natured and sweethearted, and does not play up the intelligence factor at all. In fact, he's playing someone who does suffer with somewhat of a, you know,
just say he's not smart.
Yeah. And so that's where I was like, oh, maybe they're going to play on that good nature of the character versus, you know, his typical public appearance. I think that's where a lot of my internal debate with, like, I wanted him to be good in the end. I, like, wanted it to all be Constantine.
Well, I think that also, let's not forget that Constantine had to be number one, so he had to be the most evil, and the lemur in disguise had to be number two, so he couldn't be as evil. So that worked in terms of story-wise too.
And I think that helped for the audience to feel for him a bit more because he's trying to be the bad guy, but he can't. And then we're like, oh, poor guy. He can't do it.
Well, I just felt bad for him when he came up in his lemur outfit. I was, it was so pathetic. I felt bad for him.
Right.
That's your outfit?
I lost a little pity after the use of the creepy babies.
Yeah, they were very creepy.
The creepy babies.
I don't know where they came
They
from.
were creepy.
They were borderline Chucky.
They
I
were
think.
they reminded me of like if you took like a potato and like mushed it.
No, what's the apples that
or like
shriveled
like,
apple
no, it's
kind
like
of?
a potato meshed with like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But that was the point. Who,
Yeah.
you know, they said like who wouldn't like babies or something like that.
They were
you know,
such
what person?
creepy babies.
And that was the point, though.
Yeah.
That you know, again, who? If you take the line, and I don't know if this is verbatim, but like, who wouldn't like babies? And then to throw in these ugly babies, like,
Yeah,
you know what?
exactly.
Maybe not all babies are cute.
Well, they're not.
Speaking of Constantine and actually Tina Fey as well, Matt Vogel, who played Constantine, the two of them really worked on their dialogue.
Dialects.
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 There you go with an acting coach.
Poor
I
meat.
loved Matt Vogel. I mean, I don't know how it wasn't. Who knows if he was accurate? I don't know Russian. I don't speak it. So, but I don't care. I thought it was great. I love that he sang it and his accent was still there, and the singing too. Because sometimes that you don't hear that. I enjoyed it fully. It was ridiculous in a fun way.
I think that it was very, very, you know, very, very stereotypical.
Yeah, it was
Russian
Boris
accent,
kind of from
like,
Bullwinkle
Like,
almost.
let's make this as big as
Yeah, let's
possible,
go.
like,
Yeah,
crazy. But so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny.
great.
I thought that I agree with the singing part, especially on Matt Vogel's part.
Yeah.
Tina Fey's voice throughout this movie changed like
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so
80
many
times.
times.
Yeah.
But
Which
to the point that it was humorous.
Yeah.
I feel like if I listened just to her singing parts on a soundtrack, I'd be like, how many voices do we have here?
Yeah.
And that's what Tina Fey, because watching her from SNL and 30 Rock, her character that she tends to break out in different accents, and a lot. She would break out in German all the time in 30 Rock. So I felt some German accent into that, along with the Russian, and then like where
I don't know
she was
why
from.
I give it, because normally I'd be a stickler and all that stuff, but I give it all a pass because I was just enjoying it so
Because
much.
you're in the
Yeah.
Muppet movie. And
Yeah,
they can do no
that's what I'm
wrong.
saying.
So
They give away
fun.
with so much because it's like, okay, she dropped out of her, but I don't care.
But it's the Muppets, and and there's also such an awareness of, and they embrace it.
Yeah.
That their hosts and their humans are in fact cameo.
Yeah, because it's not. You
appearances.
never for a second don't go, "Oh, that's Tina Fey pretending to be a Russian gulag guard."
Exactly.
You never.
And like you see it, and like with like their use of Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Like, they
Oh,
even
I mean,
give him
forget
the
it.
character
Or
name
Ray
after
Liotta
Danny
for crying.
Trejo.
Ray Liotta doing song and dance. Like,
Liotta.
what the?
Everyone's giving their own
Yeah.
real life names.
Who
There's
was
not much
who's your
change.
favorite cameo? Because we had
Oh my God.
the Christoph Waltz one
many.
was funny. In the first one, I really loved Jim Parsons. You know, but again, that's the first movie. In this one, I'm trying to think of who my favorite would be. Christoph Waltz was funny to me because, you know, he's now known as such a great supporting actor,
Yeah.
and to have him come out and just be ridiculous was funny.
You know-
so perhaps for me, he might have been the one.
Right. And one that I found really funny was Salma Hayek in this movie because they were in Spain, but Salma Hayek is actually from Mexico.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can understand maybe the Spanish-Mexican
Well, she
heritage
works with
culture
Almodovar
there.
sometimes, right?
Oh,
Maybe that's it.
yeah, but I'm like, I would have gone with Penelope Cruz. She's
Yeah.
from Spain,
Yeah.
so
And they always
but she
get
was still fun.
confused and, like, so I
Yeah.
think that's probably
In
part
fact,
of
that
it.
would have been funny if she said, "Look, I'm not."
Yeah, that like to throw that humor in there, and I'm just a fan of Salma Hayek. So I'm like, but she's Mexican, and they're in Madrid right now.
That's true. Did you have a favorite cameo?
I think mine's probably gonna be handed to Christoph Waltz as well, just because I love him so much, and I was just like, oh, like, he makes me happy when he's on the screen. On top of that, I know that he was originally set to play the Interpol officer
Oh wow.
in this film, and then because of scheduling conflicts,
He wasn't
wasn't able to. So the fact they still included him and that
Yeah.
he still like wanted to, you know,
Yeah. That's nice.
throw in a dime and be a part of it, I was engaged by that, and it was fun to watch him waltz because I just do like picture him in that setting, not with the giant Muppet as his partner, but like he's very elegant and very.
Here's the nice part about it. You know, speaking of all these cameos, because of the culture of the Muppets,
Yeah.
that it's A, an honor to be asked, and B,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, oh, I'll be, yeah, can I be a
Absolutely, because
Muppet?
they know no matter what 'cause everybody who's in them looks great, comes across great. There's no downside to being in a Muppet. Everybody knows that, and you're gonna spend one, maybe 2 days doing this. Yeah, everybody wants to do it.
Yeah, of course. It's like,
And as you're watching the movie, you know they're coming. So you as an audience, I'm going, oh, they and you have a great time when they come on set or come on frame because you go, hey, that's so and so, and
and then when you don't recognize someone,
Yeah.
it becomes very strange.
yeah, it's like, what?
Like for me, I did not recognize the young florist, who is actually the blonde guy,
Oh right, yeah,
and he's actually a Disney Channel star.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was very much for the
yeah, sure.
Muppet audience, exactly, who like watched this. But like for me, I was like, wait, who is this?
Yeah, I know.
was
I
so
knew it was a
curious.
cameo. I was like, I don't know who that is,
I was
but
like-
congratulations, you're in the movie.
It's like, yeah, what did you do? How did you get here? And that was very funny and shocking to me. I was like, that I didn't recognize one of the cameos.
Yeah, a cameo you didn't recognize.
I find it funny that
what?
Yeah.
they had a lot of singing artist cameos as well. We had, P. Diddy, or,
Right.
Sean Combs,
Usher.
and then Usher,
Lady Gaga.
So we had
Celine
all
Dion.
these different, definitely
Celine
Celine Dion.
Dion.
And Celine Dion even got that number with Piggy, and she was harmonizing. I was like, wow, they're really using her.
Well,
And
yeah.
and Piggy, there was parts where I thought that Celine Dion actually is going to take my cameo vote. I'm changing it.
Oh, okay.
So called Celine Dion. I didn't think that anyone could overwhelm Celine Dion's singing voice, like ever.
Overwhelmed in a good way.
No. But like I always figured if you put her in a duet, no matter what, she was the voice you were going to hear.
Ah,
And I was
understand.
like, Celine, where's Celine's voice? I can only hear Miss Piggy. I was
Miss
like-
Piggy's got a bigger voice.
I was shocked.
Wow.
Let me ask you guys
But-
this: were you guys
Yeah.
missing Amy and Jason?
I was.
because they were so tied into the first one, and where this picked up exactly where the first one left off. I thought right at the top, at the very least,
Yeah.
we get a little bit of a cameo.
We sell their backs. They're stand-ins. I honestly didn't. I don't know why, but I honestly didn't.
I think. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I miss Jason Segel because we know he was so involved with the first one, writing, and he helped get all these people back in for the first movie back in 2011. And then when I found out that he wasn't part of this one, because they did ask him to come back, but he's like, no, I already fulfilled my dream and rebooted Muppets. And he's like, I'm done. I'm happy with what I did. And then him agreeing not to come back for the second one, I thought that was very telling. I'm like, but this is your project, and keep it going. And I missed his presence. I missed his humor that he brought to it.
I'm on John's side. Not that I didn't want to see them, and I thought it would have been a cute cameo for them to be mentioned. I didn't miss them though, and I think that's because my investment for this franchise doesn't come from the 2011 film. It comes from something where they weren't included, and like to me, it would only be really destroyed if you took like Kermit out or like some of the Muppets. Like that's what would be confusing to me. Them taking the humans out, not too much of a factor.
Well,
like it's
yeah,
just
for me,
been
'cause
so many. They've had so many people.
That's
come in
one
and
of the things
out.
that's great about the
Yeah.
Muppets
Yeah.
is that you can bring new people in and they still work.
Yeah, and so
It doesn't rely on the human.
I don't think it ever should.
No, it
'cause-
shouldn't.
And I think it was a very good point for him to be like, I did my part for the Muppets, but this isn't a Jason Segel movie.
Yeah, 'cause that-
this
yeah.
isn't a Jason Segel
And
franchise.
I guess that's what I was saying.
It's a Muppet franchise, so you need to make that detachment. Am I opposed to them putting him as a cameo jump in? No. If he jumps in the future, won't bother me at all. It will
I
be a
was
nice nod.
I was
but-
really surprised that it didn't make the cameo.
Yeah,
Like you,
that we didn't get to see him at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been nice.
Who
Well,
knows?
apparently Ray Liotta is according to this, the only person to get 2 cameos.
You got 2.
Once was in Muppets from Space.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
You go,
He
Ray
was,
Liotta.
yeah, he wasn't
was
really
fun
a
seeing him like
ca-
that.
I mean, because he had more of a role in this. So, but if I had to pick one, just because he did it, I'm giving my cameo to Ray Liotta, just because it's just so bizarre to see.
in that light, I agree.
And Danny too, Danny Trejo. So, but for whatever reason, Ray stuck out to me more.
I think another fun cameo, maybe not my favorite, but was Josh Groban
being stuck
being
in
the
hole.
solitude guy. Because the first time we always hear him sing, and I'm like, that's definitely Josh Groban.
See, I couldn't quite tell the first time. Did you
Oh,
know
I
right
could.
away? Okay,
Right
so
away.
who
Yeah.
is
I also
that? Hugh
listened to
Jackman?
Josh
Who the hell
Groban.
is
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
So,
Like I know Josh.
I
Groban
wanted him
voice.
to stay in the box though. I didn't want the reveal. I wanted like a name.
I needed the
or
reveal, so I
something.
appreciated it.
I was like, nope. I know it's Josh
So
Groban. Keep him in
for
the
a second,
box.
I honestly thought, is that Hugh Jackman? And I thought they're gonna have Wolverine come out of that thing.
That would have been
That would have been hilarious
awesome.
I
if
thought
he
it
was
would-
actually in Wolverine.
That's what I mean. I
garb.
thought it would have been hysterical.
Like-
Him in Wolverine singing with the claws. I'm going, that would have been amazing. Would have been amazing.
Oh my! Next time,
Yeah,
next
next
time,
time.
Josh Groban will get a partner in the,
So,
in the
yeah.
gulag.
For the next movie.
Yeah, but
There
that
you
was
go.
a great reveal for me because it's it's Josh. Yeah, that was nice.
No, I think that overall did you think it was too heavy on the cameos? Because I know that there's been some criticism out there about, kind of being taken over, especially by adults and about by famous movie stars.
No, because for most part the cameos are so quick, and they're just one lines or look. It's like the flower. What is it? He goes, "Hey, you knew? Okay, here," and that's it.
Yeah.
And so, you just get a nice little taste of who it is. Now the roles, like for Tina and Ty and Gervais, those ones, I still, as much as we saw them, they each had their numbers. I still didn't think it overwhelmed the piece, and I still had a lot of the Muppets, and I'm sure Phil will agree. Probably too much Piggy, but because I still, Animal had his nice moment. I mean, but I still missed some moments with some of the, like I can't remember his name, but I always call him Peppy the Prawn. What's his name?
Peppy the Prawn.
Yeah, that's what I call him, but I don't
The
know.
shrimp? Which one?
The shrimp, yeah.
There
I
we-
can't
I was
remember
like-
his
I
name.
was like-
I keep forgetting his name, but like him, I wanted some more moments with some Muppets, but there's so many Muppets. How do you
So many.
have them all have their?
I'm so bad with Muppet names because I always just refer to them how they look. Because
Yeah.
I think that's like what most
Okay, yeah.
kids do.
Yeah,
Besides
sure.
like Kermit, and so you're just like the shaggy huge one and like Animal, like.
Exactly.
But that's just how I refer to them, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
don't say that on air
I
because
know.
people think. But I'm like, that's just the childhood aspect.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't really care. You just refer to them. It's like that's why they get
Okay,
names.
honestly, I don't know every member of the band. I know the sax player. That's how I call him. I call him the sax player.
Right.
Exactly.
But they all had their moments though. I mean,
Yeah.
Animal got his
Yeah.
drum solo, and then we had Grover.
And Animal, actually figured out Constantine, so he actually a little bit story too.
What I liked
He was
in
a
that-
bad fraud. Go ahead.
I liked, if we're talking about the actual Muppets, what was nice is, how do you give everyone a storyline?
Yeah.
And the nice way that they tied it in for the older audience was like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so each one of them wanted to expand the act.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of got a little bit of their personalities just in that way, which was enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I was a little fooled with. I think that another thing I liked about this with the plot devices and twists and turns was there was a couple minutes where I was very convinced the direction the film was going to them being not needing Kermit and that their show was actually being a success and not being like paid off. And to me, it was really sad.
Oh, because Kermit was left behind, and they were
Yes,
being more
and they were
successful
being
without
more
him.
successful without Kermit.
Wow.
And I was literally like, "What is going to happen?" And that's where I thought this was the
thought it was
whole
going-
thing was
wow.
going. So when they brought in that they were being bribed, I was like, "Oh, thank goodness!" I was like, "Kermit can come back."
So you didn't have to worry about that emotional investment. That's
know.
nice.
I completely agree because I'm like, when they saw that when Kermit was gone
Yeah.
and they didn't realize that, I was like, we know as an audience and we've come attached to Kermit, and it was surprising that his friends didn't even realize that this
Yeah.
wasn't Kermit. And after all these years and all these movies, how they couldn't understand that and comprehend that this isn't their friend.
Yeah.
That was bad.
It was nice because they were so caught up in their own
Yeah, their own
for the
success.
for the first time ever. Yeah, they got to their own thing, and seemingly they had success. The only people that kind of disputed that was the two critics of like, wow, hard to believe that it even got worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know what prompted me to say this was something Marissa was saying, but the fact that their own friends didn't recognize him. But I thought they even played that off well because, I mean, let's face it, Clark Kent and Superman, a set of glasses and a little hair flip on the other side. I mean, but with the avocado falling in and the Muppets just not being bright enough to realize it. But I like that they got caught up in their own success and who cares? And it wasn't until they realized, wait a minute, what are we doing here? So that worked story-wise, too. I thought that worked.
And one of my things is just that it's so hard to pinpoint my favorite scene in this film.
Yeah, I can't.
That's so difficult, and that's such a wonderful place to be at. Like, I was trying to come up with it. I was just like, whether it's, like, just the fact when they were interviewing them and interrogating in the police station. And to me, that's what puts forth the fact that this could be a reality. Like, that's such, like, to me, it was such a well-timed and well-meant scene because it shows, like, how these crooks are getting away with these crimes behind the Muppets' back and, like, how good the nature of the Muppets is. And it also brings you closer to the characters. But throughout the film, there's so many good moments. There's so many laughs that it's hard to pinpoint what you like the most.
Yeah, my audience had a great time with it. They were laughing throughout and good belly laughs. It wasn't just, hi, that's cute.
Yeah.
So did you guys have that same experience?
I saw this in a matinee in a very empty theater. Mostly not because of people not going to theater, but just
early showing on a weekday.
Random weekday showing, yeah. And it's very funny to me because when you go see movies at that time, it's very hard to get reactions out of people.
Yeah.
And we still had, in maybe the 10, 12 people in the audience, we still had people laughing. Yeah. And, like, myself included. And I was just like, that's really nice because I think when you do end up in a movie theater, basically, so like with just a few people, you're more aware. Yeah. And you can be more embarrassed.
And comedy's infectious.
Judging. And so the fact that people were still laughing through the emptiness, I was like, haha, if I knew that if I was in a packed theater, it would have been crazy.
Yeah, I had pretty full theater, and they were just laughing throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Friday or Saturday night full performance with there was the older generation and the kids, because it was still early enough for the kids to go watch it. And there was a guy next to me who laughed throughout the whole thing. So I mean, there's like a lot of people had hearty laughs, and it still generated that humor between everyone, and it was a good audience and good reactions out of everybody.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, you were talking about what moment, and when I'm thinking about the numbers that they did, even the opening number of the sequel's never as good, just because it was so cheeky and they were so referential about it. That made me laugh. And then I think of the Gulag with Tina and her opening song, and just the wordplay in it, and with that part, and seeing all the guys in the background and dancing, and then later on when we go back to we're doing the chorus line number from in the Gulag.
That was awesome.
And then you just mentioned the one where we're doing the interrogation of all the Muppets. That was a great number. And then you have Constantine's wooing of Miss Piggy and that ridiculous cheese. Yeah, but it was great cheese. I mean, I can't even pick out what number I liked best.
Yeah, they were all fun in their own way.
Yeah. Very well structured movie with laughs and with connections, and I think that's why it's successful. It makes me want to go rewatch the 2011 Muppets because so many people are comparing this to that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's been a lot out there. It's and it is good that they self-addressed it at the beginning of this one because they knew it was going to happen. Yeah, and it's true. It's like people just want to compare and compare and compare, and so part of me wants to go back, but I think it all works, and I think that the feeling I left with was happiness and laughter and joy. And
I want to go back just to hear this show again, this movie, because a lot of the numbers they're very quick, and a lot of the lines and the lyrics and the songs I was missing just because wait, what did he say? I couldn't quite understand that, and there were laugh lines in those that I missed because I was laughing at something, and I mixed the next.
And
laugh
you lost the next thing.
So I'm gonna have to see it again.
No, definitely.
So.
Well, I can understand why people would compare it to the 2011, because if you think about it, these two movies only came out within 4 years of each other, and the movies before that, it had a good decade in between. So you're going to compare it to the one that just recently came out most recent. But, I don't mind that because it's still the people who watched the 2011 still watch this one, and they're still kind of in the same age demographic. So I don't think that helped or that hindered them in any way.
Have they ever made? Sorry, this is totally a side note. Does anyone know? Phil might be able to research this. Have they ever had like have they had any recent like live, almost like Broadway type Muppet performances? Because I think that with like the success of Avenue Q, things like that, and I mean, the Muppets is basically SNL meets like Avenue Q, and I think it could be very adaptable to stage right now, and especially how they present it in these movies. And I'm just interested I wonder if they ever are looking to go in that direction.
I think they could, though, if they were planning on going, because we have the two critics, Muppets, and we've seen them, they perform in theater, technically on stage, so it is towards that demographic, people who like to go to the theater and watch the live productions like that. So I don't see why they would have any problem
I think that's what
adapting
my
it
next
to
vote
theater.
is. Next stage of the Muppets, I think that they need to bring it to a live.
Yeah, this is
again.
the logistical thing of, because I don't want to see the person as opposed to Avenue Q when you actually see the person you know, operating.
That is
I don't want to
true.
see any of that. I like not seeing that.
He's like, you like to keep the
keep the
magic.
illusion. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to see the person operating it.
I enjoy both because I respect both different types of productions. Like
Absolutely, I respect him.
theater,
I just don't want to see with the Muppets.
Yeah.
He just has his lines about what he likes.
I mean, I think it's great. You see, you know, in Avenue Q, even in Lion King, you see all the people and the performers and stuff like that. And I think that's fabulous. It's very interesting and dynamic and theatrical. I want to still have my animal be an animal, and I don't want to see the person operating his arms.
You don't want to see the one hand?
Don't want to see that.
Do you know that most Muppets are actually left-handed because the operators use their right hand for main movement? So most Muppets are left-handed.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So they have a left hand?
No, just like because the
Puppeteer?
Muppeteer, using their right hand for movements. They're
I see what
typically
you're saying.
using
The
their left.
Muppet is actually left-handed.
The Muppet actually becomes left-handed.
No, I didn't know that.
Isn't that
Good to know.
interesting?
And also,
so you can now become.
I can't wait to tell people,
Muppet
left-handed
actor.
people, that, you're a Muppet.
and also Piggy is one of the heaviest Muppets to operate. And
Clearly.
Yeah, because you know she's bigger and she has more outfits on top of her compared to everyone
And
else.
how many outfits did she have in this film?
Too many.
I know. Crying out. It was like Sex in the City.
There were so many outfits, and they were very detailed. Also, I wanted
I have to
most
say,
of them.
Tamara, my wife, we sat together. She goes, "Did you see the jewelry on her?" I went, "No, I wasn't paying attention." She goes, "Yeah, this is pretty good jewelry on her."
Like she had quite the wardrobe.
Did she?
I
Okay.
I wanted them myself. Also, Piggy had a very, she was very shapely in this film.
I
She's
didn't notice
rounded.
that either.
No, you didn't notice that?
She
I
had a
felt
figure
like
on
she. Yeah, I felt like.
Very Rubenesque.
Curvy.
To me, she just looked a little bit different than how
Wow,
she had in
okay.
like the
I hadn't-
originals.
hadn't paid attention.
I don't know if it was just like the focus of everything, but she to me, her puppet looks a little bit different.
It might have been the outfits.
It could have been with her fantastic wardrobe.
Yeah, but I read in an interview that Eric Johnson, the Muppeteer for Piggy, that they had to take a lot of breaks in between because his arm would get tired just working with Piggy.
I can imagine. I get tired when I do my hair. Imagine
Yeah.
having to do that.
Yeah, compared to the other puppets who would.
You don't understand.
No, I don't. But thank you for putting it in context. I get it now.
No, I completely
try.
get that too.
Thank you. No, I mean, the people are just so attached, and I think that it's interesting when you look through the characters that they portray, how many voices they're doing, how many they're available to switch, how many characters they know.
Did you watch the credits? Because I specifically stayed because I wanted to see, okay, who's doing what voice, and it's amazing how many Matt does. And I'm sorry, I don't know who you said, Miss
Eric
Piggy.
Johnson.
Yeah, I just went,
Steve
wow.
Or Jacobson, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was incredible.
And how they balance that in filmmaking and
Yeah.
being able to switch between puppets and between voices and maintaining timing.
Yeah.
Is very difficult.
great.
Like for half these scenes, it could very much them be acting with themselves, and I mean,
And I'm wondering if they reshot it. I mean, they do different takes, or if they have somebody else just doing all the handwork, and then they just doing the voice. Because it's a different person. I mean, there is a different personality. If somebody, two different Muppeteers are going to create a slightly different personality.
Definitely, and being able to, as the actor, to switch
Yeah.
the voice and switch perspective that quickly. I might have to do a little more research into this and fill the audience and fill you those listening in later, because that's a crazy art.
It is.
So you have to like put good nods to them, those Muppeteers.
I know, just they did. That's what the career you're going into. Right there, I'm going, wow, okay. I mean, that's a commitment. Because, I mean, what's the likelihood that that's going to work out for you? But they do such amazing work, and they really look. Let's face it. If they didn't do such good work, we as humans would not connect with these characters in any way. They wouldn't have the longevity that they do, and they wouldn't have people just continually coming to see them and wanting to be part of their lives.
It's very, very true. I mean, I'm looking up like Steve Whitmer right now, and he's famous for doing Kermit. He also does he does tons of the voices, and he's been around these characters for years, just continuously playing Kermit and doing like, I'm trying to see what his earliest film was, but he's going all the way back to before like 2007. So the relationship they've built, just continuously playing them, I think that's probably the best part. It's just like flipping around and being able to stay connected to a character for decades and so long.
And if you think about it, I mean, Sesame Street, all created by, because Muppets and Sesame Street, all created by Jim Henson. And Sesame Street is an ongoing thing. It's still going. It's been around since late 60s. But we still connect to those characters as well. And they're on weekly.
Because they've imprinted.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been imprinted on it.
But they do new scenes and new episodes every week. I mean, we see the Muppets every few years, but Sesame Street is like every week, and we're still attached to them.
Were you guys old enough to see the Muppet Show when it was on?
I mean, a little bit, but not. I was more of a Sesame Street kid.
Same here. I was more Sesame Street, but I have seen the Muppets on DVD.
I was more of a movie Muppeter.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask is, because we're now going to get more into the movie part of this, let's talk about the editing, pacing, and etc. Did you guys have, what was your feeling about that? Because I know you guys said you liked the story. You had no problems with the storyline, but how did you feel as the movie rolled out?
Absolutely. I think that they did a very good mix of like, because in editing and in visual presentation, with doing a more world-based movie instead of generally just focusing on a stage, they did have to create each country like as they did it. And to me, with the aspects of especially using the train as a constant to bring together these different cities, and then going very much just by in a way this movie is carried, I think, primarily it's character driven and actor driven, but also establishing like Dublin and Germany and the use of the map and the cutting between them, and using those glimpses of continuity, especially with the train, to me really helps set up that consistency throughout the film and that tie-in, versus of like, now we're in Berlin, now we're in here, and just flashing between theaters. Taking the time to set up those different countries, to me, gave me a minute to sink in. So that was an aspect that I really liked about how they controlled the filming of location. On top of that, I think that you have to give them props, as you said, to the disguise of, balancing the puppets, which now they've always had years and years of practice with actors, and getting those frames right and getting the balance right. And I think that, to me, they did a really good job, because I was never worried about seeing the puppeteer. Like that didn't, and that.
Yeah, and imagine watching a movie and you being worried about that. I mean, that's a bad place to be, because then you don't trust the people making the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like the pacing was really well done, especially because we started the movie off with a big number. That's a good way to engross the whole audience into the movie.
Well, in fact, even later on in the movie, Kermit actually says, start off with a good number and then go to the comedy.
Exactly. So, and you got to remember that kids are also watching this, so you have to keep their young attention as well throughout the whole thing. And I loved how the spacing of the numbers were very well done, and the comedy throughout, when they go from country to country, back and forth. I thought it was really well paced, and it kept my attention as an adult throughout the whole thing. And I think it also, with all the fun numbers, it kept the kids' attention. So I don't think they had any problem keep losing anyone in that, especially with everything that was going on.
And still throwing in the unexpected parts of, like, I guess the filmmaking, like when they did transfer Miss Piggy into black and white with Celine Dion. Like, to me, that was an unexpected twist that I felt it worked. And it's amazing how much cheesiness you will accept.
Yes.
And, like, they get away with.
But that's what I'm saying. Done the right way, it's great. And because any other movie, you know, it would be horribly cheesy. We'd go, oh my God! But they get away with everything.
It's very true.
The context is they have a huge playground to play on in order for us to accept it.
And I think even the cameos were nicely spaced out throughout the movie too, to keep the audience involved.
Except for the only part I would argue with that is the opening number, which I loved, but it was so cameo packed that you were like,
well, it's interesting because
that's where I missed a lot of the lines
in
that first song.
Yeah, me too.
And that's one thing I would want to go back and say. And luckily, I had a little bit of a heads up that song was going to be in there and that it was going to be fun. So I was ready to pay attention.
Heads up.
And even in the first number, they had the line filled with cameos, so it told the audience, this is what you are to expect in the movie.
That is true. That's true. It was just like a little bit. I was like, oh, so many. Oh, what are they singing about?
The only thing for me is, I thought the movie was fine, except at some point, and I can't remember. I think it's after we have the interrogations number, and then we cut to Kermie in the gulag. And that was fine. I think felt like it was the first time there was any kind of quiet, any kind of.
There was the one moment. I don't know if this is the moment you're talking about, but they're Constantine and Mr. Badke. They're talking, and then right after that, they're like, okay, we have to go to Madrid, I believe is what it is. And instead of going to Madrid immediately, then we cut to Kermit. And for me, I don't know, that was the moment of like, okay, if you say you're going to do something, typically what happens is all of a sudden you end up there, and so it just
they went to Kermit while they were traveling, so to speak.
Yeah, and that was going to be the juggling act for them. It was,
because they had to cut back and forth to the good look. For me, the point I was making was not so much. It was just that I realized at some point there was such a frenetic pace that I was like, it was almost like an onslaught. I was like, oh, that's right. Good. Okay, great. Thank you for being quiet for a second. Because I think that part was missing for me was those moments where you could have the pathos of the movie come through a little bit more.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think that it's probably more towards Marissa's point where they are commanding the audience of children, and they want that high. I think there is a high energy action to this that they want, and to me it was very high paced, but I wasn't ready for that. So I liked the energy of it. Also, I think that most of the slower moments are going to come between Kermit and Piggy, and when you have them separated, you end up with people, very rambunctiously, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, like, with all the big numbers and stuff, you're going to have a lot of people on screen at the same point. I don't think there was, like, for all the numbers, there was at least 20, 30 people in each number. But that's what, so when you have more people, you're going to have more energy, more of that engrossing into the number and into the movie. So I can understand why there was too many people on screen at some points where, like, some people might feel that and the overwhelming cast. But, I didn't mind it because it helped me stay paid attention to the movie.
Yeah, it was a lot of balance for me.
Yeah. John wanted to relax.
No, not that at all. I just think that it was frenetic and then nothing. And then frenetic, and I'm going, okay, you could have had a better ride there, is my saying. It's a better alpha wave, let's say, put it that way. So, but that's just me.
I can understand that.
Do you think that, so for this movie, we had it directed by, again, James Bobin, as we mentioned. And after Muppets 2011, they went pretty much directly into filming this. Like, this one started, or was, I know that the other one came out 2011. I think the proposal for this was maybe pitched or brought up in March 2012, and it was approved in April 2012, so a month later, and they already went straight into writing. And I believe that they were, I think they were already in like shooting basically 2013, and I mean, so
Yeah, it was beginning of 2013.
It was directly after, right into another one, and that was based off a huge success. I don't know if Phil has the numbers. The first one I want to say was over 100 million.
Here's the breakdown.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Get
Hold on, let me do it by. Do you want the adjusted? I could do both, I guess. But
do both.
all right. So here's the gross numbers, right? So the Muppets 2011, 88 million.
Are we talking budget? Are we talking
total grosses?
Okay.
Grosses. Muppet Movie, 65 million. Muppet Treasure Island, 34 million. Great Muppet Caper, 31 million. Muppet Christmas Carol, 27 million. Muppets Take Manhattan, 25 million. Muppets Most Wanted, according to this website, Box Office Mojo, thus far, 21 million. Muppets from Space, 16 million. Now, adjusted, the Muppet Movie would make 216 million. The Muppets, 94 million. The Muppet Caper, 93 million. Try and keep these numbers in your mind because I'm sure they're right in there. Muppet Treasure Island, 64 million. Muppets Take Manhattan, 63 million. Muppet Christmas Carols, 54 million. Muppets from Space, 27 million. And Muppets Most Wanted, 21 million thus far.
So, I mean, what we're getting from that is like, I mean, still those are very high numbers.
FYI, those are domestic.
But I mean, obviously the original movies are going to do the best. What I'm wondering is because the reboot, or whatever you want to call it, in 2011 was obviously one of the highest numbers they'd seen in years and years and years. And so it was very easy for them to monopolize on that and go straight into the second one. I'm curious as to whether or not this is still on track for a third to progress in like this era, or if it's going to need another
reboot.
Exactly.
I think they'll make a third. I think. I mean, I obviously I don't know the budget of this one, but I'm guessing this will make its money. And
budget on this is estimated at 50 million.
So yeah, I'm thinking they might have already even got one in the works. I don't know, meaning pre-pro or writing, but I don't know. I think they would. I think because
here's the thing with it that you guys, I don't know if you guys are not mentioning or just don't know who to include, but like there's also merchandise associated with it. Yeah. So you got to think of it in this world. Think of everything that you can do. So yes, there's the movie, but the movie is a platform to help fuel all of these different things as well. And so, that's where a lot of revenue can come from as well. And so I think, it's beneficial.
I'm sure they're trying to do a lot, but are they doing a lot of merchandising on this movie?
I don't know. I haven't been to a toy store to see.
I know. I would imagine that they would try to capitalize it crazy on it, but which is thank you for bringing it up because I think that absolutely should be part of the discussion.
I think that the Muppets movie, because to me it's like an advertising of at least the Disney spectrum. Like Muppets has, I believe, its own studio within Disney that manages their business and their assets and whatnot. But Disney as a corporation, I feel like, while backing this movie, has not really backed the merchandise around it, versus Maleficent has been getting a ton of publicity for years now. And on top of that, I know that they're pushing like their costumes, and they had very famous designers come in and develop kids' clothes based on Maleficent. And so it's like, to me, I've seen Disney go so far with certain things that I don't think that they've really paid attention to the Muppets as much.
Well, according to I'm on DisneyStore.com, so I don't know if this is all the merchandise, but this is the official site, I guess. So there's 55 items you can purchase of the Muppet gear.
How many Maleficent are there?
How many what?
Maleficent. But what you're saying is that you're not aware of them actually pushing this as much as they did Maleficent.
Yeah, at least to my knowledge.
But if you think about it, the Muppets has been around for 40, 50 years now, and so that merchandise was probably bigger when they first started out. It was like people who already have the Muppets merchandise, and if they pushed more, it's like we already have a Kermit, we already have a Piggy.
Yeah, but there's a whole new audience that doesn't. That's why they
and that audience is very focused on Frozen at the moment. Frozen has captured their hearts, and now I feel like for me, what I've seen on the internet and through marketing, it was very much Frozen dominated, and it's switching towards focus on Maleficent. I feel like Muppets got a concentration as being a movie and being a movie full of stars. I do not see it as having the support with digitally of the games and the videos and the sing-alongs. Like, to me, it went from Frozen, and the shift I'm seeing, unless they change it or put out more, is towards Maleficent. That's what I'm getting. And I don't know. And I mean, part of that is congratulations, because Frozen literally took over the world somehow.
Frozen's awesome, though. I don't blame them. And Frozen was a more newer concept, and Muppets have been around for decades. So I can understand why they're pushing Frozen, because no one has seen Frozen in that light, in new characters and new storyline. And it's like, we've already seen the Muppets.
That I agree with. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's hard because who's if they have their own studio, if the Muppets have their own studio, and are they competing against Frozen, or is it as a company trying to emphasize whatever they're going to get the most revenue out of? Who knows?
I'm sure they are competing.
Inner factions.
Well, yeah. I mean, not. I'm sure they don't want to be, but I mean, there's only so much, that's gonna your only percentage of whatever dollar is gonna go towards those kinds of things, and if they're already taken up by Frozen, there's nothing left over for Muppets.
Yeah.
And to speak to the other point is, you can argue that because the Muppets are known throughout, that's you already have a market, so go after them, because it wouldn't be just the people who already own Muppet things, but their children. So you already have a guaranteed audience, which is why people make sequels, because people make movies out of books. We already have an audience. It's market to them.
Exactly.
So why they're not capitalizing on it more is very questionable. It could be because we don't want to compete with Frozen. I don't know.
Could be.
It's like, you've got a golden star. Why put up anything that's going to battle it and take away from that audience? It's that effect that it's like, if you have a superstar, why put someone to rival them when you can get more money off the superstar? I mean, and it's sad, because obviously they have a legacy.
It could just be horrible timing. Look, we have Frozen, we have Maleficent, we got you're right in the middle. Let's tamp that down because we're trying to move this.
And they see opportunities for. I mean, Disney loves their sequels, though, and obviously they've built up the potential for like Frozen 2. They can add Muppets. Blah 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 blah.
They're gonna do Frozen 2.
What? Did I say that? Who knows? I mean, they have the audience for it, right?
Of course, that's why they will.
But I would go see Frozen too.
But would you buy the soundtrack for the Muppets?
Muppets? Maybe, maybe not. Probably no, actually. For the Muppets, I mean, they were fun songs and whatnot, but I think they were fun to listen to just a few times, not enough to buy them.
And they're harder to sing.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty.
I might. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that they may be harder to sing, but I would probably buy. I mean, I still can't get out of Constantine's number. I just thought that was ridiculous. You want a kangaroo? Whatever the heck. I don't even remember the lyrics, but they were just like cracking me up. And the gulag number with Tina, I might.
I think that is a point, though. It's like, as funny as I find the music from this movie, because definitely was, you do have to listen to it multiple times before it gets stuck in your head.
Yeah, there's nothing, it's not a Frozen number
like,
that
you're like, this is a
not an earworm. Yeah,
something
it's also very contextual. You know what I mean? If you just listen to the soundtrack, you'd be like, what this doesn't make half sense.
Yeah, and if you think about it,
right.
The numbers were mostly sung by the adults. They had the Muppets with them, but it was led by the adults. So of course the adults are going to comprehend the lyrics a bit more and remember it, and kids won't latch onto that as easily as the adults.
But then again, that's probably why I would like this one, because I'm not going to go buy the soundtrack to Frozen. So
you're not?
No, I wouldn't.
To Frozen?
No.
I mean,
I
love
the thing
the
is,
Frozen
soundtrack. I don't even need to buy the soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly, it's everywhere.
All in here.
Yeah. But all the songs were catchy in Frozen, and they all had the kind of same soundtrack underneath it. But with Muppets, I found every number sounded different. They had their own sound, their own, like, one was fun and energetic, one was like really clipped and factual, and so there was just different voices to each number. And I feel with Frozen, because we keep comparing it to Frozen, all of them still had the same kind of tone to all those numbers, so it's easier for kids to understand those songs compared to Muppets.
Yeah, that makes. I'm trying to find. Phil, do you have over there who did the soundtrack for this movie?
Sure, let me pull that up.
But what was your favorite number out of all of them?
That's so difficult.
I said earlier I'm not able to pick one out because I truly like them for different reasons, but not one over the other.
I will have to go with Constantine and Ricky Gervais's number about 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Just because to me it was the most surprising and it had the biggest effect on me because I started off like with the
yeah, trepidation.
Oh my gosh, what is this? What am I watching?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And then it won me over,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really sweet. And I liked that Ricky Gervais how he approached it. So I would definitely give it to that.
So
one.
the music was done by Christopher Beck, who has done Hangover, Frozen, Crazy Stupid Love.
There you go. And he's done Buffy.
Runner, R.I.D.P., The Internship, Movie 43. This guy's done a lot.
Okay.
The Watch, Pitch Perfect. Should I keep going?
No, that's good.
I haven't gotten to 2011 yet.
Yeah, Christopher Beck. He's done a lot
Goodness
of
gracious.
busy guy.
But I'd say for my favorite one, probably the most surprising one was the interrogation song. Because I thought overall it was done so well and so fast-paced and intellectual, and just how they interrogated each different Muppet in different ways.
Yep.
I thought that was well done. The timing was spectacular. It really matched with the editing back and forth between everyone. I thought it was surprising. It was really fun to watch between Napoleon and Eagle. So you got both of their one version of interrogation compared to the other, like the bad guy, good guy. I thought overall as a number, it was the most entertaining.
Phil, I'm sure your favorite was Miss Piggy singing with Celine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? I did enjoy that because it showed the absurdity of Miss Piggy. And when we do that, I'm glad.
Yeah. All right.
I think that as like the number Marissa mentioned, really exemplified the choreography that goes into the movies, a movie like this, and the intellect and the specificity involved. I can't say that word.
Specificity.
Thank you. It's Phil laughing at me. No, but I think that was a very good example of that, and how much thought that the timing goes into, and the camera work matching with the lyrics, matching with everything. Like there's so many things that have to be in order, and I think that film did a good job of balancing that all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we have to wrap up, so let's get to last words and last thoughts. Anything? Phil, you want to start us off on that?
Overall, I really did enjoy it. For me, I would have, in some sense, liked to see it be a little bit more serialized, like where we saw Amy Adams and Jason in the first one. I would have liked to see a little bit carry through, but I guess, you know what? I'm in the minority, so I'm okay with that. I did thoroughly enjoy it. I really wish, let's figure out in the next movie how to swap out Miss Piggy. But apart from that, I love the rest of the Muppets.
I think that it was fun and funny and something that's definitely a family film, which is the goal. And on top of that, I think that for Phil's sake, that the next expansion can be the genre of horror, and it will be, who knows, Bye Bye Miss Piggy.
Ooh.
No, that's a little dark, but
Just a little.
this is what I'm envisioning.
I love musical movies and stuff, and this felt like a musical, and it had the audience, the older and the younger. It made me want to go back and watch the whole Muppets franchise and go back and watch the older movies because there were so many references back to them. I was like, I don't remember that happening, but so now I have to go back and watch them, and just keeping the franchise going. I mean, the Muppets, they're not human and they are Muppets, they can't die. So their legacy is going to go on and on and on. And
They can't die.
They can't die.
Sorry, Phil.
That's the next movie. They
That's the
can't
next
die. Zombies. That's
There
a
you
big
go.
But
thing
it's
now.
just like, so
That's right.
Maybe
they're-
Hunger
they're
Games.
gonna
Maybe
live-
Divergent.
They're
Let's put the
gonna
Muppets
live
in there.
on, and we're gonna go back and watch them over and over again. So I want to watch the older versions of Muppets.
That
Fun
makes
movie.
sense.
I think it delivers on everything that a Muppet movie is supposed to deliver on. It's got great numbers in it. It has great cameos in it. There's laughter. It hits a lot of demographics. So I think that song is playing us out.
Yeah. And this is gonna be stuck in your head for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
You're
there's an
welcome.
earworm for you.
Stuck in my head.
Well, Phil, where should people contact us when they want to let us know what's up?
Well, follow us here on Twitter at Movie Anatomy. For more of your favorite dissections, go to anatomyofamovie.com. And hey, we've been spreading the word. One of the greatest things that you guys can honestly do in return for what we do here is to just continue the conversation. One, because we enjoy it. We love hearing your guys' opinion. That's why we love and do what we do, is because we just love the movies and we love talking about it, the movies with anybody. And secondly, by doing that, it obviously helps spread the word, and the more we can build this community, the more fun it can be. Like this song.
I just can't listen to Phil.
Yeah, I know, Sarah.
If
you're not watching again,
song.
Sarah's dancing once again.
I just really like this
Mana.
Last words, ladies?
Great
Anything?
movie. Go, definitely take your kids to go watch this.
There you go. And on that note, we'll say goodbye. Thanks very much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.
Thanks for watching Anatomy of a Movie on YouTube. For more on your favorite movies, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to let us know what you think in our comment section below here. Bye.